Here are scatter charts. For a long time, I was kind of like, scatter charts? Don't understand them, don't know how to do them. And it took me a while to get my head around scatter charts. So what exactly is a scatter chart? Well, here we have a scatter chart, and then we also have a line chart, and then we have, wow, my line chart didn't create well. And I'm going to show you all these examples. And again, the reminder, just experiment with what you select. So a scatter chart is ideal for 2 columns of data. So scatter chart's ideal for 2 columns of data, and we saw that with the Gapminder website, right? We had this, we had income, and we had life expectancy. And where does each country fall in relation to how much income do they have and what's their life expectancy? So it allows us to kind of find a relationship between those 2 columns of data and visually see that. Well, here's their life expectancy and their income, right? So a scatter chart is really good with 2 columns of data. And it can get a little bit confusing, at least it was for me at the beginning, because here we have 2 columns of data and I create a line chart. And here we have the same 2 columns of data and I create a scatter chart. So it's just kind of interesting to see, like, how does that look with a line chart versus how does that look with a scatter chart? And which one kind of tells a better story and is also visually more interesting. So when you select your data, again, it's a little bit of an art. So here I'm going to create a line chart. And I'm going to select everything here, right, including this column header and that column header. And let's see what my line chart looks like when I select all of that and line chart. And my line chart looks like crap. How come my line chart looks like crap? Well, let's try selecting this, which is all of the data. And I have this column header, but no column header there, right? And now let's create a line chart. And that one looks great. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. Okay, if that column header is not there, the chart comes out well, but if it is there, this line chart doesn't come out well. And here, if we have the column header, right, over both columns, and I create a scatter chart, no, then my scatter chart actually looks great with both of those column headers there. So just kind of interesting. What would my scatter chart look like if I created it off of this column? That's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. Here we go. You know, looks great too. 85 numbers, total rainfall. So it worked out well doing it that way. Those are scatter charts. Here's a larger scatter chart with different coloring. I kind of like that coloring. One of the cool things you could do is when you select your chart, you could go up to design and you could choose different designs real quickly just by looking at the designs here. Here's a line chart with a design applied to it. And then here's a scatter chart with a trend line added to it. So once again, just click your chart, go to design, add chart element, legend, nope, trend line, linear, exponential, linear forecast. So that's how you add a trend line to it. Here is the same data that we saw where we have GDP per person and life expectancy, but I switched it. In the Gapminder example, GDP was down here, life expectancy was on the y-axis. Here I put GDP on the y-axis and life expectancy down here. And just notice the difference between the data there, like the story that it tells. Exact same data, it's graphed, but here the story is like, you know, people are doing all right. The data's all the way out here. Maybe that's one way you could interpret it. And here it's like, wow, nobody's really gotten off of 0, you know. But I don't know. So who knows how it gets interpreted? It's just something to think about. So here is how you would graph those scatter charts, right? What do we have? We have income, and then we have life expectancy at birth, and GDP per person with projections. Select all that, insert, scatter chart, there we go. And there's that scatter chart. And likewise, here's the other one where I've just switched the columns. Notice I've got the money here, life expectancy there. I've got the money here, or the life expectancy there, and money here. Could I do that little trick where I select my chart and switch row column data? That doesn't work in this example. So I actually had to physically switch the columns. So just something, again, you just kind of have to play with it and tweak your data, tweak your selections, see what you get. You can do all kinds of things with scatter charts, like food consumption. So there are my 2 columns of data. I just put all this together to illustrate how it's just showing the relationship, plotting a point between 2 columns of data. Like if you're 20, how many absences do you normally get? Well, 20, you have 2, right? So here's age and absences. Here's the K factor, weeks of survival. I just made that up. I have no idea what a K factor is. And here we have an area stacked chart, just to show you a different type of chart, right? So it's, the salespeople and the date and what their sales were. So you can really see some seasonality in this business, or, definitely there's cyclical periods where more sales occur. And, again, you could tell different stories here with your stack chart, depending upon who ends up where, and like it looks like this guy just completely, or this woman completely rocks it. She's at the top. But actually, this is how much she's contributed, is the color right there. So even though she's at the top, it doesn't necessarily mean she's contributed any more than blue. So it's just kind of interesting. All the chart types, again, you could come here and you could choose change chart type here, and you could see all the different chart types, and you could play with them just to see, what would this data look like if I was to use different types of charts. And there's different charts up here that you could choose. Some of them don't make any sense for your data, right? So a lot of different charts here that you could see. And that's the exact same thing. All those charts are the exact same charts as right up here that you could choose different charts up there. Area stacked, so I'm just illustrating you a couple of the different chart types. And then we can start to do some really cool things, like with a combo chart. So how do you create a combo chart? Well, here, step 1, I put the steps in for you to see.